Okay, Rabbi, we're starting tonight the Parsha Shavua, which is called Parashat Ki Tetze. Right? What is this talking about? It's talking about the Jewish people going to a war, right? But this is a specific type of war, not every kind of war we're talking about. We're talking about something which is called Milchemet HaReshut. What does that mean? There's also something which is called Milchemet Mitzvah. Two types of wars, right? What is Milchemet Reshut? That means that it's not really so much an obligation to do this war. Opziari, it's like optional, right? So why is it optional? Because we don't really need this war. We weren't commanded by God to do this war. Number one. Number two, also we don't need it to defend the country. Like there's some kind of there's a security problem. No problem. Just we want to expand the borders. Make the borders bigger, go into a different territory.
This is why we call war.
Yeah, but this is optional war. That's the idea. We don't have to do that. Nobody's forcing you to do it. So what happens is that the king goes to the Sanhedrin, to the court, high court, and he asks permission to them to do the war, because he cannot go without permission. He has to get permission from them.
But
So
why they call war? It's war. War is
it's a war. Yeah, he's going and conquering. New land. That's the idea. It's a war. Capture new lands. Yeah, that's the idea. He wants to expand the borders, right? This is what David HaMelech did. Like for example, David HaMelech, he went and he conquered Syria.
Okay.
He was the one who did that. Before that, Syria was a different country. He went and he annexed it to Israel. That's what happened. So there are many things like that. Also, Shlomo HaMelech, went also as well, and he expanded the borders. He conquered the south, in Elat, that area in the south, in Negev. He conquered over there. So that's what happens, right? These kinds of wars that they go and do, they're the kings. But it's not really an obligation to do these wars. So in a case like this, what happens is that they have to get permission, as we said, and then
Permission
from the court, to Sanhedrin, high court, right?
Okay.
So how many judges are over there? 70 judges, right? Over there, you have to get permission from them. So what happens is they go out, and also we're talking about Malchut Bet David, that the king, it's a Davidic dynasty, what we're talking about. If it's a different Malchut, over there is no Melech, so it doesn't apply over here, this rule.
Right.
So it's a very specific kind of thing, that's the idea, right? So what's the rule? The rule is that when you go out, what happened is, in the old days, what happened was that they used to have these goyim, they used to send the enemies, they used to send the women to seduce the soldiers, so they couldn't fight. So they would send from their own family even, their own daughters they would send them. So what happened was that they would go out to the war and they would see these women, this one over here, prostitutes, there's like they're standing over there to distract them from the war, so forth and so on. Right, and so
they will lose the war. They will lose the war.
Yeah, because that's the whole idea, right? So what happens like this, right? So here the Torah gives you special permission. What does that mean? That even though a Jewish man is not allowed to have relations with a goya, it's considered to be a very, very big sin. We talked about that in the other lectures. How big the sin is to have relations with a goya. That a person has no portion in the world to come. He has isur karet. He gets cut off from the Jewish people. If he takes a non-Jewish wife, whatever, and so forth, and so on. But here, the Torah gave special permission. In this case,
Special permission.
right? What is it? Why is what's to have relations with this lady? Why is that? Because if we know that if you don't give permission in a case like this, they'll do it anyway. So might as well give them permission and do it in a permitted way. So what happens is that this lady now, he's allowed to be with her one time only. That's it, right? One time, one night deal, one night stand, as they say, right? That's the idea. So once he's with her one time, now he's not allowed to be with her anymore. So what happens after that? What happens is that once the war is over, if they won the war, let's say, right, the Jews. So what happens is that they take, he took that lady as a captive, took her to his house. So what happens is that now, let's say, right, what's the situation? What do you do with her now? One time you were with her. And now what happens in the interim? So what happens like this, right? That she has to sit around in your house. The Torah commands us for like a month to cry about her situation, that she was kidnapped and she was taken captive. And also she's not allowed to do her hair, to nice. She's not allowed to do her nails. She has to let her nails, right? Whatever. So all these things. Right, exactly. That's the whole idea. Argai pranjos. So why? What's the reason why? Because we want her dafka to look ugly. That's the idea, right? Why is that? Because we don't want this guy to take her as a wife. Because if he decides to take her in the end, he can take her as a wife. You know what I mean? He can convert her, and take her as a wife, but we say that better not to. So therefore, we try to discourage that. Why? How do we discourage it? She doesn't look nice. She doesn't look beautiful. She's crying. She's in a bad situation. Exactly right. That's the idea. What's the reason why, by the way, we don't want this guy to take this wife? Because she's a goya, So they say, right, that nothing good will come out of this marriage. It'll be a bad marriage, all likelihood. It's not going to be a good marriage. He's going to wind up hating her. Why is he going to wind up hating her? What's the reason why? Because this lady, she's not really Jewish. She just, she was forced into this. Whatever, it's also her fault herself as well. But what happens is, right, that in a case like this, she doesn't really have a Jewish neshama, this lady. Right. So it's like a conversion which is very questionable, shady. There's not a good conversion. So therefore, the Torah tries to discourage you. Nevertheless, if a person wants, right, after all this, to marry her, he's allowed to marry her. But the Torah warns you, right, if you do, it's not going to be so good, right? You're going to have a hard time. Mm-hmm. So the truth is, right, that there's also machloket here amongst the Rishonim. According to most of the Rishonim, the authorities, they say that he's allowed to actually live with this woman one time, as we said, right, during the war itself. And then he's got to stop and then wait a month. But according to Rashi, he says a little bit differently. Rashi says that he can't really live with her, during the war. He just can take her and then wait a month. So according to him, you can't really live with her. But the truth is, most of the opinions, they say that you're allowed to live with her one time, right? It's choros, that's it. That's the idea. So the halacha seems to be more that you're allowed to live with the woman at least one time. Even though Rashi says, but Rashi is like a minority opinion over here, so we don't really go like that. But anyway, the point is, right, that now comes and tells you the Torah, if you really want to take her, fine, take her. The interesting thing is, by the way, that in the Kabbalah, in the Zohar Kadosh, talks about this issue. There's two different types. There's converts, people who convert to Judaism, right? But there's two types of converts. One is the type of convert which is called Ger Tzedek. What does that mean, Ger Tzedek? This is a righteous convert, somebody who converts for the right reasons, because he loves Hashem, because he loves Torah, all these things, right? So this is a good convert. That's we welcome converts like that. We want people like that. Why is that? Because these people, they really have a Jewish neshama. So why were they born in a goy as a goy? Why were they born as a goy? So because of their sins, that they had in their last lifetime, they were born as a goy. So their job now is to come back to the Jewish people and to rejoin the Jewish people again. This is a ger tzedek. But also there's other kind of ger, which is the fake ger, right? Somebody who's trying to just to do it for the wrong reasons, because he has ulterior motives, for money, for power, for kavod, for marriage. He wants to marry a Jewish guy, whatever, all these kinds of things. So in cases like this, sometimes what happens is that people convert, which are not really for the Leshem Shamayim. So people like this, they don't really have a Jewish neshama. This is the problem, So it's not going to be good from them. What's going to come from them? It's going to be bad. So this is exactly what we're talking about here. You understand? This is not really a Jewish neshama. This lady, right? She's right. So we know that also David HaMelech himself, by the way, he also took a woman like this when he went out to war. He himself also took one like that. Right? Yeah. Titonas Gaketa, So he also did it. He took one lady like this when he went out to war, and she was actually a daughter of a king. This lady, from the Geshurim, right? The country of Geshur. So what happened was that he converted her, and he married her, right? But what happened was that we're going to see, right, that it turned out to be a tragedy. What happened? That was born from this Avshalom. And Avshalom rebelled against David and also almost threw him out of the kingdom altogether, almost killed him, right? So we see from there that doesn't turn out good, this kind of marriage. You understand? No, right? So that's why exactly what happens is that after this episode that the Torah tells you, it also comes and tells you something else, right? That if you have two sons let's say a person has two wives, and he has one son from this one and one son from that one. So what happens is that right, exactly. So what happens is now like this: the one wife he loves her, and the other wife he hates her, doesn't like her so much, whatever. So the question is like this, right? Let's say the wife that he hates, she's the son is the firstborn, Bechoria. Okay. She's a Bechor, and the one that he loves is the second son. That's the situation, right? So what's the halacha? Halacha says that Bechor gets twice, right? In terms of the inheritance, he gets double portion. This is the idea, right? So what happens is the Torah warns you that even though this son, right, is the one you love, you want to give him more, and not give this one. But nevertheless, since this one is the Bechor, even though you don't like his mother, nevertheless you have to give him double portion, because that's the rule of the Torah, right? The rule of Torah, you have to give him double portion. So therefore, no matter what happens, you should give him, even though you hate that woman. So what does that mean? It's not a matter of hatred or love. It's a matter of halakha. You have to do it this way. This is the halakha. That's the way it's got to be done. So now what we're saying is like this, right? That why does it bring the story over here right after this story? To tell you that if you take a woman like this from the captivity, from the goya, this, whatever, so in the end you're going to wind up hating her, and you're going to have a son also, like this. So then what happens is now comes and tells you another narrative over here, right after that, which is what? We're talking about the issue of Ben Sorer Moreh. What is that, Ben Sorer Moreh? We're talking about a person who has a son who's very rebellious and has rebellious, Ubeduria, Ubeduri Sertia, he's a derelict, degenerate, degenerate, this kind of person. So what happens is that he has sometimes a person like this who has a very bad son. They have to warn him, number one, first of all, to warn him not to be like that, not to be so rebellious. What does it mean rebellious? That he steals, from his parents, and he goes and buys food and drinks, all kinds of things, kaifops, Right, that's the idea, right? It's very specific conditions. So it comes and tells you, right, that first you got to warn this boy in front of three people, in front of three, like a bed din kind of thing. One time you warn him and you lash him, they give him lashes. If he doesn't take it, next time he does it again, this time we kill him, right? It's execution. So what's the reason why this person, this boy, young boy, right, just because he stole some money, from his parents, and he bought some meat and wine, what's the big deal? Why should we kill him for that? What, kill somebody for that? Right? Because he stole from his father some money, right? So what's the idea? So they say the Chazal that we're not really killing him for what he is now. The Torah is telling you that later this guy's going to turn out to be a criminal, banditi. Exactly. We know that a person like this, a kid who behaves like this, he's going to turn out to be very, very bad in the end. He's going to start robbing people, and robbery and armed robbery, kill somebody, he's going to get killed, and whatever. It's going to be all kinds of bad things. So therefore we say it's better that he should die now as a tzaddik than he should die as a rasha, later on, kill somebody, that's the idea. So therefore better to kill him now, because we know in the future this guy's going to be a big criminal, mafia guy, This is the kind of guy. So therefore we say better to kill him now. So why does it bring this story over here also as well? It tells you, right, the Torah, that if you take a woman like this from this kind of situation, the captivity, you're going to have also a son like this, stubborn, rebellious son. Ubeduri Gamogiwel. That's the idea, right? So it's like a chain of events over here, right? Number one, you take a bad woman. Then, right, number two, turns out that you hate her. Number three, also, then the son turns out to be rebellious, right? All these things go like in this procession. You understand? So Torah is warning you, right? Better not to get yourself involved with a woman like this. You're not going to have a good time with her. It's not going to be right. It's not going to be productive with her. It's going to be very, very, it's going to cause you a lot of suffering. And this is exactly what happened to David HaMelech, right? That Avshalom came and he rebelled against his father and threw him out of the kingdom, and so forth and so on. He almost lost his life because of that, and Avshalom himself died. So it was a big tragedy. You know what I mean? That's the whole idea. So we have to learn from there, right? That also we learn from there also a practical thing. That unfortunately today what happens is like this: that many of these so-called rabbis that we have today, quote unquote, they do something really, really bad. What does that mean? Every time some Jewish guy brings a non-Jewish girlfriend, and he says, "Oh, okay, convert this one," So they can, the rabbi takes $10,000, for money, he'll convert anybody, he'll convert even a chicken to Judaism. You know what I mean? This is not the way of Judaism, Mechila, This is not you convert somebody just because you met some girlfriend, This is not the way. This is not the proper way. So what happens is that when you do this kind of conversion, this is the end of it. You know what I mean? You're going to hate her, you're going to have bad children, right? They're going to rebel against you. all these kinds of things, right? So we see from there that a person should try to avoid this kind of thing. Even today, right, we have the situation where these bad conversions are being done for the wrong reasons. Just because he has a girlfriend, just because he has a boyfriend, so now we convert them. The truth is, that we find in the book of Nehemiah, which is one of the books of the Bible, what happened was that when they came up from Bavel, the first Galut, the Jews, so what happened was that many of them took non-Jewish wives, and when they came back, they brought them with them. Those non-Jewish wives. They had one Jewish wife, and they had also another non-Jewish wife. Two wives. So what happened was that Nehemiah, when he saw this, he made a special, ceremony, and he gave it to them. Very, very harsh. He told them, you have to get rid of your non-Jewish wives. You know what I mean? Please, you have to divorce them. There's no way to keep them. Send them back. Them, and also if you have children with them, send back the children also. Let them go back to their country, wherever they came from. Let them go back. So what do we see from there, right? That the Nehemiah didn't, like they do today, these rabbis, they convert everybody, his girlfriend, boyfriend, everybody you convert. Nehemiah didn't convert them. What he did was he kicked them out. He told them to throw them out. He gave it to them. He lashed them. He punished them, until he corrected the situation. So you see from there, right, that this kind of conversion is not really a kosher conversion. Very, very, very bad. Unfortunately, it's happening a lot today. This kind of conversion. What can we do? We do the best we can, but a person has to know that when you take a woman like this off the street, you met her in some street, street corner, some nightclub, whatever, and now you want to convert her to Judaism for what? Why? She's interested in Judaism? She's not interested in Judaism. She just wants to be your girlfriend. So that's not the way to do conversions, right? That's the idea. Okay, we get the idea. So this is the reason why all these things are juxtaposed together. All these passages are put together in order to teach you this lesson, right? Doing these kinds of false conversions. Okay, very good. So let's go on. So comes and tell you the Torah, right, several things regarding marriage. That there are certain kinds of people, or Jews, whatever, that cannot marry into the community, even though they may be Jewish, right? So this is very important to understand, because if a person marries somebody like this, he has to divorce her. There's no way to keep her like that. There's no, right? So one of them, right, the two interesting thing ones are Petzua Daka Uchlut Shofcha, right? Bikal Adonai. But what does that mean? We're talking here about a person who cannot have children because his genitals are damaged. Either they got hit. They got into an accident or something, whatever. So he can't have children. This guy, because his genitals are not working properly. They're not functioning properly. Whether it's his testicles or his, this guy, they're damaged. So there's no way for him to have children. So a person like this really, right, should not marry into the community because of this problem, because he can't have children, right? So what should he do? He has to marry somebody else, right? For instance, like a convert, or one of these kinds of situations. He can do that, but he's not allowed to marry into the community. So a person has to know, right, that if his genitals are not functioning properly and he cannot have children, so he's not allowed to marry into the community. There's also a lot of details about that. We cannot get into them now. We don't have time, but nevertheless we go on, right? It says also, Lo yavo Amoni u'Moavi b'kal Adonai, right? What does that mean? That Amoni and Moavi, these two nations, even if they convert to Judaism, these people, they're not allowed to marry into the Jewish people, right? What's the reason why that these two nations are not allowed to marry into the Jewish people? So it says, right, Afilu gam dor asiri lo yavo lahem b'kal Adonai Adonam. Even 10th generation they cannot. Even if they go one generation, another generation, from till the end of time, they cannot marry into the community. Right. So that's the way it is. So why do we discriminate so much against these nations, Dafka, right? Precisely these nations. What's the reason why? So it tells you over here that al davar asher lo kidmu lachem etchem belechem u'mayim b'derech b'tzetchem mitzrayim ve'asher sachar alecha et bin'ah ben be'or mipetor aram naharayim lekalecha. So two reasons brings over here. One is that that when the Jews left Mitzrayim, these two nations, what happened was that they didn't come to greet them in the Midbar to sell them, right, merchandise and so forth. They didn't want to help them at all, in any way. Even to make money, make some business. For them, they're also going to profit. But nevertheless, they didn't want to. They didn't want to help, right, at all. Even though it's going to be also profitable for them. So therefore, I would consider that to be, kafui tov, kafui tova. You know what that means? No gratitude, right? Why do they have to? Why do they have to be gratitude? These nations, because Abraham Avinu, right, saved their father Lot, right, when he was captured as a captive in the war. So since they have no gratitude, they were saved. If it wasn't for that Abraham Avinu saved them, they wouldn't even be alive today. They wouldn't exist, these nations. But nevertheless, they hate us so much. They have no gratitude for what Abraham Avinu did to them, and they didn't even pay us back by, simply just, just providing us with some food to eat and drink and all kinds of things. Like, they didn't want to do that, right? So therefore, right, since they have no gratitude, says the Torah that this trait, characteristic of no gratitude, that's the idea, right? So if it's something really so bad, this character trait, that we don't want people like this converting and marrying into the Jewish people, because this is a very bad, midah. It's a very bad character. A person who has no appreciation for what you did for him. He has no right. He doesn't thank you. He doesn't feel any debt to you. Nothing indebted to you whatsoever. No appreciation. Just the opposite, right? He hates you. And that's the idea. So therefore, right, that's one reason. But there's also another reason, they say, because he hired Bil'am, right? The Moavim, the Moabites, they hired Bil'am to curse the Jewish people, right? In order to damage us, right? Dazian, the Jewish people. So therefore, they say these are the two reasons why we don't allow their converts to come into the Jewish people and marry. We do convert them if they want, but they have to marry a convert. They cannot marry into the Jewish people, somebody who's born as a Jew. That's the idea, right? So what happens is that the question is like this: How did David HaMelech then marry Ruta Moaviyah? She was a convert from Moab, right? How did he marry her? If you're not allowed to marry, so this is because they had a tradition regarding this in the Bet Din of Shmuel Armati. The tradition was that it's the males only which you cannot marry. The females you're allowed to marry, right? Moavi velo Moaviyah, Amoni velo Amoniyah, right? That's the idea. So what does that mean? That they're females you're allowed to marry, but the males you're not allowed to marry. So that's the idea. What's the reason why, by the way, that the males you're not allowed, and the females you are allowed? What's the reason why? What's the difference between male and female? Because so Gemara says over there, the Talmud says that's different. Why? Because we don't expect the women to come out and sell merchandise to us, in the desert. This is a job for the men. Right? Women are staying at home. They're cooking, taking care of the children, things like this, So therefore, we can't blame them for doing, for not coming out to greet us in the desert. Right? We can blame only the men. We cannot blame the women. So therefore, this is the reason why the women are allowed to convert. This is the reason why we're allowed to convert. That's the idea. Okay, so you got the idea. Also regarding Ammonia as well, right? Same idea. That the women are allowed, but the men are not allowed. And this is the reason why Shlomo HaMelech, right, he did take a woman who was Ammonite. Even though, right, she was Ammonite, but nevertheless, since it's a woman, he did take her, right, and the son that he had was Rechavam, who was the next king, right, that came after. So we see from there that the blood of the Moavim and the Ammonim is mixed into the kingdom of David, Malchut Bet David. Why? Because Ruta Moaviyah and Naama Ammonite, these two ladies, they married into the Malchut of Bet David, and they, right, so therefore they have also a portion in this Malchut. Whatever, that's the idea. But nevertheless, right, as we said, the men are not allowed, and the women are allowed. This is the idea, right? Okay, so now it comes and tells you also two other nations that you're not allowed to, right? What does that mean? It's talking about Adomi and Mitzri. Right. Adomi is from Esav, right? Christianity, Romans, right? The Roman nation. Right? So the Adomi, what's the reason why? What is the rule by them? You're allowed to marry them after third generation. But the first one who converted and his son, not allowed to marry. After the third generation, you're allowed to marry. Also Mitzri, same thing, right? Egyptian. Right? What does that mean? That the first generation, no. Second generation, no. Third generation is mutar. That's the idea, right? What's the reason why, by the way? Why first generation is asur and third generation is mutar? Because they say, right, that these nations are very corrupted. They're very corrupted people. They have a lot of tuma, a lot of klipa, they're unclean people, right? They say that the most unclean people that there are is the Mitzri and the Adomi. That's the idea, right? So therefore, since they're considered to be the most unclean, we got to wait 2 generations, until it gets cleaned up, their zera, Geizbindos. This is the idea. This is the reason why we have to wait. So then the 3rd generation, already that impurity gets removed. This is the idea, little by little.
Yes.
It gets removed. The truth is, right, that nevertheless, right, as we said, all these things. But what about the women, right? Are we allowed to take mitzriah or adomi even before the third generation? So here there was a machloket actually between Shlomo HaMelech and the Chachamim in his generation, right? Because Shlomo HaMelech did take women from these nations. He took mitzriot, he took adomiot, he converted them, he took them. But the Chachamim in his generation didn't agree with him. They told him, they said, what are you taking? What are you taking Egyptian women? And why are you taking Edomi woman, right? These Romans, you're taking them from Esav. Why are you taking them? The Torah tells you not to take them. So he said, you know what? He argued with them. He said, just like you're allowed to take Ammoniyah and Ammonit and Moaviyah, the women of Ammon and Moab, also Mitzrit and Edomit, also you're allowed to take. Also these women you're allowed to take. So he wanted to compare one to the other, but the Chachamim didn't agree with him. They said no. When it comes to these 2 nations, Mitzrit and Ammoni and Edomit, you're not allowed to take even the women. Why? Because this reason that we just mentioned doesn't apply to them. What's the reason why we said the women of the, Moab and Ammon, they're allowed? Because they have nothing to do with the issue of going out and giving food, and bringing food. They have nothing to do with that. When it comes to Mitzrit and Adomi, this reason doesn't apply to them. So therefore, there's a different reason over there. You understand? So it doesn't really. So therefore, the halacha is really bemet, not like Shlomo HaMelech, right? Shlomo HaMelech over here, right, had his own opinion, but the rabbis didn't agree with him. But nevertheless, right, the Gemara already says, all these rules today they don't apply. Right, nowadays, what does that mean? Any goy who wants to convert today in our times, we convert him, no matter which nation he comes from, whether he's Egyptian or he's Italian, Roman, whatever he comes from Rome. What do I care? What's the reason why today we convert all of them? Because all these nations today are mixed up. They're not right. They're not from the original nations that they came from. We don't know. All the nations are mixed today. One comes from here, one comes from there. Right? You go to one country, you have like 50 different nationalities over there. In every country. So therefore, since we don't know, what happened was that Sancheriv, one of the kings, who ruled over the whole world, he mixed up all the nations. He moved one from here, one to there. So he mixed up everybody. And also Nebuchadnezzar, he also mixed them up. So therefore today, we don't know anymore who's really a Mitzri. We don't know today who's Ammoni and Moavi. We don't know who these people are. Right? We have no way to identify them. So therefore, we convert anybody. That's the idea, right? Anybody who wants to convert, we convert them. As long as they're coming for the right reasons, right? We see that it's the intentions are good. We do the best we can to ascertain their intentions, whatever. So today, right, doesn't apply this idea. That's the idea. Okay, very good. Also, another thing is important thing. The Torah tells you, right, when you go out to a war, one thing you have to make sure, right? When you go out to the war, the Jewish people, the camp of the Jewish people in the war, the Shekhinah is there. It's a holy camp, right? So therefore, don't do anything to ruin the Shekhinah of the camp. What does that mean, to ruin the Shekhinah of the camp? That means that don't leave over there, right, all kinds of filthy stuff with a bad smell, like feces, People are going to the bathroom. They have no bathroom over there. Where are they going to the bathroom? So they're just doing it there on the floor, right, on the floor. So what it tells you is that you should have to bury that stuff. Don't leave it above ground, that it should smell and stink, because this is disgusting, and it removes the Shekhinah from that place. The holiness gets removed. So therefore, they have to keep the camp of the Jews clean. That there should be no filth over there, bad smell, like you have today. They say that if you go to some cities today, the feces are all over the place, in the street. Like Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles. You find it in the street like that. You go over there, it became like the jojoket, some kind of whatever. This is the idea. So therefore, right, the Torah commands us to Behaya Machanecha Kadosh. What does that mean? Your camp, the Jewish people, have to keep their camp clean. There shouldn't be any bad smell over there, any stench, right? Things like this. It destroys the kedusha of the camp. The halacha is right. If you have any something like that, feces or urine which smells bad, you're not allowed to learn Torah over there. You're not allowed to say Kriyat Shema over there. You're not allowed to pray over there, Amidah. Right? All these things you're not allowed to do until you remove this bad smell from the feces. Right? That's the idea. There's all kinds of rules regarding that. That's the idea. Okay, very good. So also another thing over here that tells you is that לא תהיה קדשה מבנות ישראל, ולא יהיה קדש מבני ישראל. This is a very important halacha. What does this mean? That there should be no prostitutes in the Jewish people, right? What does that mean, prostitute? Prostitute means that she goes with anybody that she wants to. Today it's this guy, tomorrow it's another guy, right? Tuesday it's a different guy, right? Every day it's somebody else. She doesn't have one man that she stays with, right? She has also other people, this guy and this guy and this guy, right? Usually they're doing this for money, right? It's for money. But even if it's not for money, if it's just for enjoyment, still it's not allowed. The issue is not really the money. The issue is that she's mufkeret. She goes with just anybody she wants, anytime she wants. One night this guy, one night she's a prostitute basically, right? That's the idea. Or just she's a floozy, whatever. This kind of girl goes with all kinds of men. So the Torah warns you, right, that if you're a father, don't allow your daughter to get into this kind of situation. You have to guard her. She shouldn't become a prostitute. Zona. This kind of thing, right? And also the men as well. What does that mean? That there also should be no male prostitutes as well. That's the idea, right? So in both cases, we don't want. This is not the way of the Jewish people. Right? There should be prostitution amongst us, or promiscuity, all kinds of things like this. So therefore, right, the Torah only allows one kind of relationship. What is that? There's a woman goes only with one man. She has only one husband. Whatever, and that's the idea. Not that she should be going Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday each every day different person. Right? That's the idea. We don't want this kind of thing. And by the way, one of the reasons is why we don't want this is because what happens is that when a person gets confused like this, he has one man over here, she could be thinking about one guy and with a different guy, so therefore the children turn out very, very bad like this, when there's different bad thoughts. Right, exactly, So therefore, right, it damages the children, damages the seed, does a great deal of damage to the Jewish people, takes away the kedusha of the people, of the children that we bring into the world, right? It's considered to be a very, very bad. They say, the Chazal, that nothing angers HaKadosh Baruch Hu like gaznut, bozoba, this kind of thing, right? Nothing angers him like that, right? Promiscuity. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees this kind of thing, he starts to punish right away. He doesn't forgive anybody for that, And this is the reason why it says, right, when we had the issue of the Bnei Shimon, right, who had znut with the daughters of Moab, right away it says over there, right, that the wrath of Hashem was kindled. Gabrazda, because right away when he sees this, the promiscuity, he hates that more than anything else. Nothing angers him like that. So therefore, there's always, when you see this kind of situation where the women are just going with men, indiscriminately, one guy here, one guy there, this is considered to be a situation where for sure the punishment will come. Bo yavo, that's the idea. Very dangerous. Nothing dangerous like that, right, for the Jewish people. It also removes the divine presence, removes the Shekhinah from the Jewish people as well, these kinds of sins. Very good. So then, right, comes and tells you, Lo tashich le'achicha neshech kesef neshech ochel neshech kol davar asher yishach. Right? So what does it tell you? That not allowed to take interest, right? Procentive, When you give a loan to somebody, to a Jew we're talking about, right? To a Jew, so there's two types of prohibitions over there. One is to take interest if you're the lender. You're going over, right, the prohibition, and also the one who gives interest also to Azlips, He's also transgressing. So from both sides, you understand? They're transgressing. The one who gives and the one who takes, right? They're both transgressing. This sin is considered to be, by the way, very, very severe.
Which one is more sin?
That what?
Roman Proisari, bad one. Give it.
Both the same, right? That's the idea. The Torah doesn't want that there should be interest, to be like this in the Jewish people, because what it does is that it kills that person, the one who has to give interest, little by little he takes his money like that, all his money, he has nothing left. He like bites him, that's why it uses the language of biting over here, lo tashich. Tashich is language, you're biting him. When you take interest from him, it's like you're destroying him, little by little, Commence, I'll pay Sheba. Nothing gets left over. So therefore, the Isur prohibition of interest, of rebit, is considered to be very, very, very big Isur, right? Very, very big problem. From the Torah, it only applies when you make a stipulation from the beginning there's going to be interest. In other words, they said, I'll lend you $1,000, but you have to give me back $1,200, right? 20% interest. What's the percent? Something like that. So if they stipulated like that, they made a stipulation. It doesn't matter how much it is. It could be $50. This is from the Torah. This is prohibition, right? But if they didn't make a stipulation like that in the beginning, but then in the end he gave him also a little bit more. This is rabbinically not allowed from the rabbis also. Right? Not allowed. So either way, right? Either this way or that way, it's not allowed. What is allowed, which is similar to this, which is that when a person, right, what happens is that sometimes he does like a business arrangement where it's like a profit, In other words, you give him a certain amount of money, and he'll give you more, not because it's a loan, because it's like investment. Yeah, it's investment, right? In other words, I'm telling you, take $1,000, invest, and give me profits. This is allowed. So therefore, right, sometimes what we do is, many times, especially in Israel, where they have banks over there, who are lending money and borrowing money, all kinds of things like this, whatever. So when you're in a situation like that, what we do is we do heter iska. What is heter iska? That means that we do it in a form of an investment, right? And we don't do it as a loan; we do it as an investment. Yes. So therefore, we avoid the prohibition of rebit, of interest, of percentage, like that. So there is a way to do that. By the way, if a person needs to do it this way, you should go to a rabbi who knows how to do it properly, and to do heter iska. And this way he gets saved from the prohibition of rebit, of interest. That's the idea, right? That's the idea. But it comes and tells you the Torah that even though you're not allowed to give interest or take interest from a Jew, but you are allowed to give it to or take it from a goy, right? When it comes to a goy, you can borrow from him on interest and also lend him on interest. That's allowed. That's the idea, right? Even though, by the way, there was some things that the rabbis made, some decrees not to do also with a goy, but today, nowadays, we consider it to be allowed. The Shulchan Aruch says it's allowed to do it. So therefore, if a person wants to lend a goy on interest or borrow from him on interest, he's allowed to do that. Only with a Jew, it's not allowed, right? That's the idea, right? With a goy, that's a different story altogether. Either way, it's fine. Okay, so we got the idea. There's a lot of details, by the way, when it comes to interest. A person has to, if he's not sure, right, what he's doing, and if it's considered to be interest, he should ask a rabbi in order that, a person should know what's allowed and what's not allowed. There's all kinds of things, all kinds of details, all kinds of nuances. It's quite complicated, by the way, the laws of interest. So a person should go to a competent rabbi and ask him, right, whether he's allowed to do it this way or that way. And as a general rule, by the way, in Israel, all the loans which are taken from the banks is done with heter iska. Mm-hmm. So you're right. Heter iska means that they do it as an investment, right? So therefore, they do it. All the banks have it over there. So therefore, if you're borrowing money from the bank, it is allowed to borrow from them, even though there is interest involved. But it's done in a way of an investment, as a form of investment. So, right, exactly. So therefore, it is allowed to do it this way. It has to be done in the proper way, though, right? It has to be done with the auspices of a rabbi who knows how to do it, whatever, this kind of thing. So a person should consult with a rabbi if he needs to consult about that. Okay, so that's the idea. Then comes and tells you, right, more. There's so many halachot over here in this chapter, in the parasha. Also, another important thing, right? The Torah tells you over here, "Lo ta'ashok sachir ani ve'avion me'achicha o migerecha asher be'atzecha b'sharecha." So there's also a form of gezel, like stealing, which is that a person has employees that he hired or contractors, to do a certain job. And what happened was that he doesn't pay them, right? So this is called oshek, right? This is also considered to be a form of gezel, a form of theft. So the Torah warns you, right, that if you owe somebody money because you hired him, pay him right away. Don't wait tell him, wait for a month, I'll give you. Oh, very nice, You're telling him to wait for a month. What is he going to do now, right? He has to wait. Why didn't you tell him that before, right? So what does that mean? That a person who hires somebody, he has to give him right away the money. Shouldn't wait a month or a month. Tell him, wait a month, wait a year. No, that's meanwhile, you're going over on Gezel, unless you had a stipulation like that. If you told him in the beginning, listen, I'm not going to pay you for a month. So he knows that he's, that's something else. But we're talking about a case where he didn't know. Just time you hired him, just a regular. You're hiring somebody, so you got to pay him right away, right? What does it mean right away? They say, right, that you have like pretty much like 1 day. You got to pay him like within. Yeah, that's the idea. So right, they say the language is like this, right? That that's the idea, right? That's the idea. Yes. So what does that mean? That if you hired him for the day, you should pay him by the next night. If you hired him by the night, you pay him by the next day. Right? That's the idea. So this is also considered to be right something which is a form of gezel, right? Something bad, So they, you know what the idea is, right? David HaMelech, he said like this, right? Love Rasha velo yishalem, right? What does that mean? That Rasha, he borrows money and he doesn't pay, right? So here also, a person, if you're hiring somebody, you should have what to pay. Then why are you hiring him, without having what to pay? So this is considered to be also a Rasha, a person who does this. He doesn't know what he's doing, just, oh yeah, work for me now, and then I'll pay you later. What pay you later? What does that mean later? If you got to pay him now. What's the right? He works for you now, pay him now. Unless he knew from the beginning that it was going to be like that. That's something else. That's a different story. Okay, very good. Also, another important halakha, which it says, right, Luyum tu avot al banim, ubanim al luyum tu al avot, right? So it tells you that the son and the father, one cannot be killed because of the other one. What does that mean, that one cannot be killed because of the other one? That a father cannot testify about a son, to be a witness, and also a son cannot testify about the father. The truth is, right, you're not allowed to testify about your relatives, close relatives, altogether, right? This is the idea. So therefore, if a person has somebody who was a criminal, right, you have to bring witnesses who are not his relatives. You understand? Otherwise, you cannot convict him with witnesses that are relatives. Yes. Also, same thing, right? If he said about himself also, right? I did this sin. We don't believe him. He's also considered to be a relative of himself. You know what I mean? Yes. He's related to himself. So therefore, whether it's himself or his brother or his father, right, or his son, we don't believe. Right? We only believe people who are not related to him. That's the idea, right? If it's distant relative, it's okay. But if it's a close relative, we don't believe close relatives, right? That's the idea. Very good. So this is the idea. Also, it tells you something more than that. Ish bechato yumatu, right? What does that mean? That we never kill the son because of the sins of the father, and we never kill the father because of the sins of the son. Right? Each person has to die for his own sins. That's the idea, right? That's the way it should be, right? Nobody you have to die for somebody else's sins. What kind of things is that, right? We don't punish one for another, but comes and tells you the Chazal that there is actually a case where sometimes the son dies because of the sins of the father. What does that mean? That the son is still katan, he's not bar mitzvah yet, and there are some sins that the father had. So son sometimes can die from minat shamayim. They kill him because of the sins of the father. This is the idea. But once he grows up, so then he doesn't die anymore for the sins of the father. We certainly cannot punish him, right, for the sins of the father. There's also another interesting thing, which is what? That sometimes when a father is a sinner, right, and the son continues in his way, he also is a sinner, same sin that the father had. So they punish him even more, even for his father's sins. You know what I mean? Because he continued to do the sins of the father, they punish him even for his father's sins as well. Sometimes it happens like this. That's min hashamayim. But the court cannot, the court, earthly court, cannot punish somebody for his father's sins or his son's sins. No such a thing like that, right? That's the idea. We get the idea. Okay, very good. Also, another thing is, Even shlema v'tzedek yeh lecha efo efa shlema v'tzedek yeh lecha leman yarichu yamecha al האדמה asher yeh adonecha natan lecha ki tovat Adonai Elohecha kol oseh ele kol oseh aved. Right. So also telling you, right, when it comes to measurements, right, this is your business, right? You're a jeweler, so you have to know, right? You're always using a scale. When you're a jeweler, right, the scale is like the whole business over there, right? So therefore, they say, right, you have to make sure that your scale is accurate, right, that you shouldn't be, stealing from people, gezel.
You have to check it every 2 weeks.
That's the idea. Oh, very good, very good. Oh, very good. That's the idea, right? If you don't check it once in a while to ascertain, so in the old days, what they had, they didn't have electronic scales. They had those, those weights, mishkalim, tonevi. So what happened was that you have to make sure also that your mishkal, your weight is the proper weight. You have to once in a while you got to measure it to make sure there's a proper weight. This is the idea. Because if a person doesn't measure properly, whether it's jewelry or whether it's food, also, you go to a supermarket, if their scale is off, they could be stealing from you. They're overcharging you, still taking too much. So a person has to make sure. It says, right, that a person who does this kind of thing, to use bad scales in order to profit more, is considered to be abominable, Sazizgaria, to'eva. This is the idea, right? Because he's stealing like that from people, right? And you never know, by the way, once you steal like that, you don't even know who you stole from anymore. You can't even return it. How do you know how much you stole? You don't even know who you stole from. Person already left, he doesn't come back anymore. That's it, you know what I mean? Once you did that, so therefore you got to be very careful. So what does that mean? The Torah commands us that our measurements should be all accurate. And once in a while we gotta check that. They say, by the way, there's a bet din, who has the power. Today we don't have such a thing like that. But they should go around and check, the scales of everybody, all the businesses.
There is a company.
From the government.
They comes and
From the government you're talking about?
Of course.
Very good.
Of course.
This is a great mitzvah,
And they have to put their sticker on it.
Right, yes. The government does that sometimes.
Yes.
All kinds of things. So the truth is, it's considered to be a very, very, very good thing, this kind of thing. There should be no stealing, there should be no monkey business, all kinds of things like this. Baruch Hashem, if they have it, if they have this rule, very, very, very good, this rule, right? That's the idea. Okay, very good. Also, right, comes and tells you regarding, right, farming. What does that mean? That a person has to leave over some of the crops for the poor when he has a farm, We're talking here about Eretz Israel. Right, exactly. We're talking about Eretz Israel. We're not talking about here, right? In Chutz La'aretz, right? Or diaspora. No. So what does it come and tell you? Right, that let's say, for instance, they're reaping now, right? Harvesting the crop. And what happened was that they have over there, right, Omer, right? What does that mean? Like a bundle of wheat, whatever, some kind of crop. So they say, right, that if that bundle was forgotten, don't go back and take it now. Leave it for the poor, They left it there. When they were taking it, they forgot it. So they have to leave it there, right? That's the idea. That's only if it's a small one, you understand? If it's a very, very large one, you don't have to take. You don't have to leave it there, because that's already a lot of money, But if we're talking about a small bundle, something a little small, they say leave it for the poor, once you left it, leave it. That's the idea, right? That's number one. Also, right, we're also talking about the trees as well. What does that mean? That a person who has an olive tree, right? Something like that. So he has to leave also one portion of the olive tree for the poor. Don't leave the whole tree. Don't harvest the whole tree, right? Leave something on top for the poor as well. Right, everything, right? Exactly. So you got to leave something also for the poor as well. That's the idea. These things apply in Eretz as well. They don't apply over here, as we said, right? Very good. And also regarding the vineyard, right? The grapes as well. Also a person has to leave over. What does that mean? That talks here about when it comes to the vineyard. It's talking about so what does that mean over here? It's telling you that when you're harvesting the vineyard, you also have to leave over some of the grapes for the poor. Which grapes you have to leave over? The ones that don't have like a nice triangle shape like this, like the clusters. They like a thin, not triangular like this, with shoulders. Just came out like very, very thin like this, very skinny. So those you gotta leave over for the poor. That's the idea, right? These skinny ones. That's the idea. Okay, very good. You get the idea. There's a lot of details regarding this, but we're not going to get into it now. We don't have time. Okay, very good. So let's go on. So also regarding, right, it talks here about the issue of lashes, right? Even though today we don't administer lashes because we don't have a bet din like that to administer, but there's one interesting thing, right, that it talks about here, which also applies today, which is what? That according to the Torah, how many lashes do we give to somebody who did a certain kind of a sin? 39 lashes we give, right? Not 40, 39.
Why 39?
The Torah tells you, right, because these lashes are very strong, so we're afraid he's going to die, That's the idea.
40 is going to be too much.
40, yeah, it's maybe too much, right? Exactly. so therefore, right, it tells you to give 39 only. But the interesting thing is, like it says, right, if you give one more, you're doing averah, sodoar, Why is that? Because if you hit somebody for no reason, you have no right to hit him. So what do we learn from there? Over here, the rabbis learn out, the Chachamim, the Chazal, that if you hit a Jew, you're going over a prohibition, Miatra, sila miatra, daratra. You're not allowed to do that, right? So from here we learn that if you give an extra shot to the one person who's liable, you're considered to be a sinner. Also, if you hit somebody, give him a fist, murti shiatra, mushti shiatra, pechit miatra, this kind of thing. So a person who does this to a Jew, who hits his fellow Jew, they say, right, that he's Rasha, Rasha Kiyari, a person like this. Right, exactly. That's the idea. That's the idea. So you understand what I'm saying, right? So therefore, right, person has to be careful not to be, violent, and start hitting people and all kinds of things like this. There are some Jews, who are like, very violent. Unfortunately, they have a violent streak.
I have one question.
Yeah.
A question is like this. There is many families, I know also about 2-3 families here in Belgium, and they have some kind of difficulties between father and sons. I mean, the children and the parents.
Yes.
So what kind of the problem? Where I see it last time. So that means the father and let's say the mother, they're not so religious.
Yes,
They
yes.
not say they let's say Shabbat Shomer 100%,
Yeah.
and the children for the son, and he goes there, he studied the Torah with one of the rabbi or two rabbi, he comes very religious.
Right.
Now this comes very big tension between parents and the son.
Yes, yes.
Even sometimes they're not talking to each other.
Right,
Yes,
right, right. Wow, wow.
yes, yes. Even sometimes they, for example, when the son sees his father or mother, let's say, is Mechalel Shabbat, and said, "No, I'm not coming to your home. I'm not eating in your place." I know here, I know like two or three families. I know they're very serious tension,
Yeah.
and even almost they don't speak with each other.
Right.
And the parents very angry, and then they say,
Yes.
you know what? Okay, the rabbi is your father, so you don't want to talk to me, and I'm not going to talk to you. And he said, no, I'm going to do whatever I want, and so you're Mechalel Shabbat. I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to. You're not 100% kosher. I'm not eating anything.
Yes, yes.
This kind of this problem.
Yeah, it's a very common problem today, by the way. This is a common problem.
And what is the solution?
You know what has to be like this, right? That this person who went to study with yeshiva.
One of my relatives also.
Right.
Two relatives in Belgium.
I understand you. This person who went to study in yeshiva, his rabbi or some other rabbi has to teach him how to deal with his parents. You know what I mean? There are rules about this.
Yes.
You know? So the problem is that the rabbis are not teaching them these things. And this is why they're getting into friction.
That's not good.
You have to teach, the rabbi has an obligation, the one who's teaching him, not only to teach him
Especially
Torah.
in this situation.
Right, exactly. To deal with his parents. Yeah. There are rabbis who talk about this, by the way. The chief rabbi, Rabbi Yosef, he talks about it, in his lectures in Israel. Today, here, we don't see so many rabbis talking about these things. Whatever. In America, I don't see anybody talking about it. But the truth is that there has to be a certain level of respect, Even though your parents are not religious, you have to respect them anyway.
Yes.
So that involves all kinds of rules, how to do that. They say, right, that you're not allowed to, even if your parents are not religious, right, you're still not allowed to disgrace them, to gap azoros, this kind of thing, right? Yeah. To embarrass them in public, and to give them tzarot, to give them suffering, to make them suffer, to embarrass them, to disgrace them. A person is never allowed to do these kinds of things to his parents. Whether they're religious or not religious, he gets punished for that, So therefore, a person like this has to be taken to a rabbi, this young man. And the rabbis teach him how to deal with his parents. That's the idea, And also to talk with the parents is also very good, To tell the parents also how to deal with them. Also the other way around, you know what I mean? There are rules from both sides. So...
And I think the most important, the children, they have to learn in this situation how to...
Of course. Yeah, no question about it.
It's not easy situation. It's a very
difficult situation. But the truth is, that once you know how to deal with it, you can deal with it. You just have to have a little patience, a little.
So both have to have.
There should be a rabbi there teaching.
We discuss with
the rabbi, yeah.
So the parents have to
absolutely
speak with their rabbi in this situation how they do.
Yeah.
And the son also has to go to the rabbi and get them.
This is written actually in the prophets, in the Navi. Where is that in Malachi? He writes in the last parak in Malachi over there. Malachi was one of the last prophets. He writes over there that Eliyahu Navi, when he comes, they say Eliyahu Navi is going to come the day before Mashiach, right? One day before. Before Mashiach. They say that one of the reasons why he's going to come is to make peace between the father and the son. So we can see from there that predicted already there's going to be problems with the fathers and sons. All kinds of issues like this, So Eliyahu Navi will come and make peace with them. That's what it says between them. He's also a rabbi, Eliyahu Navi. He's a good rabbi. Right? So he's going to come.
The situation is like this. There is sometimes 4, 5, 6 years they don't speak with each other.
Wow, terrible. Yeah, it shouldn't be like that. That's very bad.
It's like a tension, like a person say, you know what, I don't have any more son. He's not
I understand
even,
you. But to be honest with you, sometimes it's better. Sometimes, some cases, it says in the books, sometimes it's better that the son should leave the house. You know why? Because if the parents, what I'm saying is if the parents are very much against him, and they always criticizing him and putting him down and fighting with him.
His son has his family.
Yeah, I understand you.
Children and they're separate.
What I'm saying is sometimes, if the parents are very much against, so sometimes it's better to separate, I go my way, you go your way, You go to the right, I go to the left. If they can't get along, they're fighting all the time, and there's no respect between them. Sometimes it's better just to separate, everyone goes his own way. Shalom al Israel, Shalom. Shalom. That's the idea, right? That's the idea. So if it's really, really bad, sometimes you got to separate.
I know.
There are situations like that. Yeah,
so that means that the rabbi consulted it will be better.
Maybe, it's possible. Very possible. Very possible. So, you got to know how to deal with this. So, there are ways to deal with all kinds of issues like that. Also, regarding eating in the house, together, kashrut, there's ways to deal with everything,
Yes.
There's a solution for everything. Just have to go to a rabbi and sit down and talk with him, and he'll give you solutions for everything. There's no problem. Okay, whatever, you got the idea.
Good, thank you.
Okay, so let's go on. So it says, right, that we talked about the issue of the gleaning. Now, I also wanted to talk about the issue of yivum, right? Talks here about the yivum. What does that mean? You have two brothers, and one of them had no children, right? So what happened was he died. Mm-hmm. So now there's a special mitzvah for the brother to marry the wife of the brother, right? What's the reason why, by the way, this has to be done? According to the Kabbalah, there's something very deep over there, right? What does that mean? That this person who had no children, he died, childless, so he needs a big tikkun in order to fix his neshama. Wow. A person who leaves this world without children is considered to be like dead, like dari, So he has no portion of the world to come. He has all kinds of problems. So therefore, what we want to do is we want to bring back his neshama into the world. Mm-hmm. So this is exactly what happens, right? When the brother goes and takes the wife, that son that he's going to have from her is the neshama of the brother that died. Wow. You understand? He comes back in a gilgul. So this is the way to bring back his neshama into the world. You understand? So this is why we do this. It's considered to be a very, very big mitzvah. The truth is that today, by the way, in most cases, they don't do it anymore. Some people do it. But in most cases, it's very, very hard to do it. Because, he already has a wife or whatever, all kinds of issues. The Ashkenazim don't do it, by the way, also. The Ashkenazim, they already stopped doing it. Whatever. So what they do is chalitza. They do chalitza. You have to do chalitza. You can't just leave it like that. Because you cannot remarry without doing chalitza. You know what I mean? So you got to do chalitza. Right? The shoe, right? Everything also. The spit, everything, right? All this kind of thing. If you don't do chalitza, she's stuck. So, but the truth is, right, that the best thing to do would be to do yibum. Why is that? Because you're doing a chesed for your brother who left this world without children to come back, right, and then to fix to make a tikkun. This is the reason why they do the yibum. So therefore, it's considered to be a very, very important mitzvah, right? The mitzvah of yibum. It also has all kinds of rules, all kinds of things, right? But a person has to know that this is considered to be a very, very big chesed that a person does for his brother by doing marrying his wife like that and having a son from him. Okay, very good. So then goes on to say. Also talks here about the issue of the sending away the mother bird and taking the children, right? So this shiluach haken, right? It's called in Hebrew, right? This mitzvah. So shiluach haken, what does that mean? That if you see a certain nest of bird, right? Nest. So the mother is there sitting on the eggs or on the chicks, right? So there's a big mitzvah, right, that a person can do.
The mother goes away, taking the children away.
What you have to do is like this, right? You have to send the mother away, right? Take the mother, send them away, right? And then take the eggs or the chicks, right? And take them for yourself, right? So
I know this one for maybe 30 years.
Yeah.
But still, believe me, I don't understand why is the bad thing to do it.
Right. So
the mother comes, there is no children. What kind of feeling is it?
Right. That's the idea. So
we'll go I don't understand, like a human being, right?
Yes.
So explain me.
It's a very good question. The truth is, that this is the misconception that people have. That they think that this is a matter of mercy on the mother. This is not the reason why we do it this way. Not because we want to have mercy on the mother.
This
is not the reason.
Why
we need this? Because they say, right, that according to the Kabbalah, there's something very deep over here that goes on. When you send away the mother and you take the eggs or the chicks for yourself, what happens is that mother goes now and complains to a certain angel, She starts to cry, So he goes and complains to an angel. That angel takes that cry and has an effectuation,
To who?
It goes to other places, very, very, in Shamayim. What happens is that this causes that the Jewish people should come out of Galut. Right? It has HaKadosh Baruch Hu has mercy on the Jewish people to get out of Galut. It has a chain reaction, domino effect. You understand? Something very deep over here happens. It's a very big tikkun. So therefore, they say it's not logical. This is not logical. This is something that effectuates a very big tikkun.
Even also I heard if somebody they don't have children,
Right.
they do that, which is my relative done.
Yes. Considered to be very. It's a big segula, right.
Went and you took it.
Very good. Yeah, that's the idea.
Mitzvah, right?
Right. It's a very big mitzvah. Right. So therefore, right, if you see a situation like that, they say that you should try to do it. Don't miss it. Don't just go pass by and say, "Oh, what do I need that for?" Try to do it because this mitzvah will give you a lot of good things. It's going to give you.
Really?
They say also that.
And what about? That's it, right?
That's it. You're done. That's it. You're done. You can do whatever you want after that, right? Once you took it, that's it. You took it, right? That's the idea.
It's a mitzvah to do it.
Very big mitzvah, right? Considered to be a very, very big mitzvah. They say that a person who does that also will be zocher to buy a house, also to have a home, because it talks here about first doing this mitzvah and then buying a house, right? And it goes like this order, certain order, right? There's mitzvah, goret mitzvah. There's mitzvah brings another mitzvah. So all these things are considered to be very big mitzvah. So therefore, a person should not give it up. But it only applies to a certain situation. What does that mean? That these birds have to be hefker. It's ownerless, right? Nobody owns them. If it's a private bird, there's no mitzvah like that, right? It's only right. It's only when it's ownerless. So what does that mean? If one person already did the mitzvah, he took it for himself. He cannot do it again with the same because he acquired that. He acquired the chicks or he acquired those eggs. So you cannot do the mitzvah again like that because now he owns it. That's the whole thing, right? So therefore, you can only do it when it's hefker, when it's ownerless.
You have one time you have to do it, or every time you see this kind of situation?
Every time you should do it. We should try to because every time. The truth is, it's pretty rare that you find a situation where you can do it. It doesn't come up very often in life.
I understand.
So therefore, a person shouldn't miss this very, very important mitzvah, right? There's all kinds of halachot, by the way, also here, regarding how to do it and how not to do it, so forth, so on, right? We don't have time to get into all these things, but nevertheless, right, what it tells you is that if a person does this mitzvah, then he's going to be zocher to buy a house, and then to put a mezuzah, right, to do another mitzvah on the house, mezuzot, and also to make a ba'akeh. It's also another mitzvah we have over here, which is what? To put a fence around the roof that nobody should fall off. So that's also a mitzvah from the Torah to make a ma'akeh, to make a fence around, right, the house, the roof of the house, that nobody should fall out from there. That's the idea, right? So all these things. One more mitzvah we have over here. There's many. We cannot do everything, but also, right, Zachor et asher asal lecha Amalek. Here, the Parashat Zachor is also here, right? So what does that mean? That number one, first of all, by the way, whoever didn't hear Parashat Zachor during Purim, he has now another chance to hear it this week. So what he should do is, if he didn't hear Parashat Zachor, go to the Chazan, right, the Baal Koreh, and tell him, I didn't hear. So have me in mind now to do the mitzvah of Parashat Zachor over here, right? This Shabbat. Right, he's going to do maftir. Right, this is going to be the maftir. So tell him the Baal Koreh, have me in mind to do the mitzvah deoraita Parashat Zachor. So that's the idea, right? So the person has a chance to make it up right now. Also the women, the women who didn't hear, they can also make it up now. So some say women are also obligated to hear Parashat Zachor.
Yeah, but in the Shabbat we're going to hear it.
Yes, but you have to have also intention, kavanah. Say kavanah. Yeah. So therefore, you got to tell the Chazan, have me in mind to do the mitzvah.
In maftir, right?
Right, the maftir, exactly. That's the idea. So you got to tell him before that. So that's the idea. So what? But this mitzvah, right? What is the mitzvah telling you over here? We have to wipe out Amalek, right? We have to wipe out the nation of Amalek. The problem today is that we don't know who's Amalek. All the nations are, as we said, they're all mixed up today.
My grandmother told me many years ago when I was 10 years old, they were Armenian.
Right. This is just a sipurei sabta, but Babwe Bisisav is Zaparia. It's not really true. We don't know who today is Amalek. We don't know if it's the Germans or if it's the Armenians or some other nation. The truth is, Amalek today, they're mixed up everywhere. Every nation they are. Yeah. They're mixed everywhere. Right. They say, but the Ashkenazim, by the way, they have like a tradition like this. That how do you know if a person is Amalek? There's a siman, there's a sign. Two things, right? Okay. Number one, and every time you mention a Jew, he has a burning hatred for Jews, When he hears Jew, it gets crazy, Gishdeba. This is a person who losing his temper because he hears a Jews, he can't stand that. Right? That's one sign. The second sign is that he's also very fastidious, very particular about the way he dresses, a very, very well groomed person. So he's very well groomed, exactly, precisely,
right.
Like Germanic, kind of like, very well, everything, like nothing, right? Every hair, is every, the shoes are shined, right? Yeah, like perfect, this is the idea, right? So we need both of them. You understand? One is that he's very well groomed, number one, and also he has a burning hatred for Jews. So if you see a person like that, they say he's Amalek, this kind of person, right? That's the idea, right? So, there is such a thing. The truth is, right, that we are going to do the mitzvah of wiping out Amalek. When the Mashiach comes, right, we're going to find out who's Amalek, and therefore we're going to come, right, and destroy them. We're going to destroy the nation of Amalek. Right, these are mixed into all the nations today. They're in Russia, they're in England, they're in America, they're everywhere, right? They're in Germany, they're here, they're everywhere, this nation, right, Amalek today. Why is that? Because they want to kill the Jewish people, everywhere, so they go everywhere to kill off the Jews. So the idea is that we still have this mitzvah until this day, to kill off Amalek. Today we don't know who it is. That's the problem, We don't know how can we kill somebody we don't know. Also, if you start doing this today, they'll arrest you, they'll put you in jail, So who wants to this kind of thing, right? You lose your own life because of him. Right? What's it worth it? So therefore we have to wait until, right, we have the power, to do that when Mashiach comes, and also we can identify who it is, right? Exactly. We have to know who they are, and then once that happens, we certainly can, right, do the mitzvah, right? That's the idea. Okay, Baruch Adonai Leolam, Amen, Amen. God bless you for coming. Thanks for coming. Good parnasah, good life, health, wealth, and happiness. Good New Year, B'ezrat Hashem. And shefa, lots of good things in your life. Parnasah, shefa, ruchani, v'gashmi. Amen, ve'amen. To all the ones who listen to the shiur, we bless them. Kol tuv, laila tov.